Hello everybody, my name is Richard Zoltek and I will be providing the video tutorials for this program. On your desktop or in the actual menu bar at the bottom of your screen, you may have an icon that says AutoCAD, and just double click that and it will launch the program. And your program will launch and will look similar to this, although you may not have all these different projects already previewed in there. If you've worked on a number of projects, they'll show all the different ones that you have worked on, so you can simply double click on them and launch them. In our case, we'll simply select File New and the AutoCAD DWT template. If you do not see it here, simply click on the top left of your screen, File and New, and it will display a list of different template drawings. So I will be referring to either a single click, which is your left mouse key, double click, which is twice quickly on your left mouse key, or a right click, which is a single click action on your right mouse key. And we will begin with the AutoCAD DWT template and open that up. And when you do this, your screen will look similar to this one here. Now, I've already begun a project that I will be working with. I have a file that I already have opened, and it is in its completed format. So imagine, if you will, if this was in a sketch format, which is your project base that you're going to be transferring to CAD. And this particular image is available as a PDF file. So you can either follow along the lessons that I'm providing using this exact project, or you can use your project that you're working with right now and adapt to it. I'd recommend you follow along with this particular project because there's a number of exercises I have built into this project to help provide information on how AutoCAD works. And AutoCAD is a language, and as a language-based program, we must try to understand the language that we're going to be using. All right, now, at the top of the menu here, you'll see that I've got a number of items here. This is the project drawing. It allows me to identify and open or close individual files at the same time. So when I close this file, it's asking me if I want to save it. I don't, because I haven't made any changes. And we're back to the file that you had opened. So let's try to understand AutoCAD. AutoCAD has a number of different menus, and communication means that we need to have a clear impression on in order that when I am speaking, you understand exactly where I'm going to. In the beginning, I will point out very clearly which item I'm referring to, what it's called, and all the different menu items. Now, this time, you may or may not have a secondary menu on your screen. It all depends on what's referred to as the default setting of your program. I like the second menu because it gives me far more options. And that second menu is available here at the top of your screen, where there is an arrow that points down with a line above it. And if you scroll down, you'll notice in here I have hide menu bar. Yours would say show menu bar because it's not visible. If I click on hide menu bar, it'll actually remove that menu bar from my display screen here at the top of the ribbon. So if you'd like to view it the same way I am, it just makes it easier for us to communicate when I refer to and point to these different items. So let's try to understand this communication method that AutoCAD is using. There is a verbal text, a primary menu, and a secondary menu at the top of your screen, and then it's divided up into different categories. So we have draw, and draw refers to anything that's new. So if I look at the word draw at the top of the menu ribbon here, it has an arrow that points down. So that's a rollout menu I can click on. And there's many other options that are available as well. But the ones at the top are the primary ones that you use repeatedly, or which is most commonly used. So you have a draw section. So anytime you want to draw something new, a line, a polyline, a circle, an arc, a rectangle, and so on, it will allow us to start something new. The second section refers to modify, which simply means that we're changing something that already exists. So we may be moving an object, rotating an object. Copy, although it may seem like a draw, it's really taking something that exists and duplicating it. So it is not a draw item, it is a modify item. Now what's interesting, you can see what's happened here. If I keep my mouse over top of any of these words long enough, it'll actually display a brief scenario on how the lesson works. So whether it be mirror or fillet, I'm just going to keep my mouse there over top. I'm not clicking on anything, and you can see that it shows you a brief lesson on how that particular command works, and that can be very useful in the beginning. Also, it has a rollout menu that allows for more commands that are available. The third section is annotation, and we usually leave this till much later on, where we can add text or dimensions or leaders or tables, additional information to the drawing itself. The next section refers to layers. And layers, if you will, imagine multiple sheets of glass where you can draw on one sheet at a time. So this allows us to turn or remove sheets of glass on or off, so we can see single layers or we can see multiple layers. Now, this is only referring to drawing, so this menu to the left. Modify allows us to adjust any item on any layer at any time, unless of course we've done specific adjustments in here which allow us to turn off layers or lock layers or anything like that. And as we move on, there are other items. The only other one I want to refer to right now is the Properties menu, which simply identifies the specifics of every line that we create. It identifies how we're drawing, in this case by layers, so the layer is active, that's how we draw. Thicknesses of lines, which we will leave for now. Line types, now line types refers to, and you can see there's only one here, continuous, different types of lines like hidden and center line and anything like that. Later on we can group items together, measure items, cut and paste, and so on. Down below is a virtual screen, which simply means you can zoom in and out, and it can be any size or scale that you want. So if we're going to draw anything, we draw it in this particular part of the menu. Now, this may be black on your screen. I've optioned to turn this gray so it's more easily visible. If you want to turn this gray, I'm going to show you the procedure right now. All you need to do, as your mouse is on the screen, not on any command, right click, so that's on the right side of your mouse, select or click on the word Options, and this menu here will appear. And under Display, there are multiple tabs up here. Display is usually the one that comes up first. Click on, that's a single click action, on your left mouse key, the word Colors, and then you will see that this display comes up. And what this allows us to do is change the background color. I just find this easier on my eyes, and it's an easier display for you to see. The default setting here is black, which you can change to white, although I would avoid white only because when we get into other types of visual aspects of the program, they become white. And it's a cue to help us understand what aspect of the program we're in, whether we're in model space or paper space. So you can pick another color or leave it as is, apply and close, and then you can click on the X's and that will remove it. And now your screen looks exactly like mine. Down at the bottom, we have something that's called a command prompt. Now, you may see several lines of this at the bottom, or you may only see one. I've got it set to 1. And what the command prompt does is it tells us what instruction we're in at any time, and it gives us a hint to what we can do. Let me show you. I'm going to click once on the line command, and you'll see in the command prompt it says line specify first point, which simply means click somewhere on your screen or identify using some sort of grid information, and they're usually referred to as coordinate numbers, and it will start the line command. So this is a way of gauging where you are in a command, because most of these commands have several different steps. And if you're lost in your steps, you can always look down here and it'll give you information. Then down below that, we have different tabs. They're model space and then layout tabs. The simple way to describe this is model space is just drawing on a blank piece of paper. The layout tabs allow us to overlay a title block, and therefore we can add text, we can add other bits of information, and then we can scale our drawing within a pre-sized title block. So we tend to leave these layout tabs in the beginning, and we only work in model space in the beginning to actually draw our model, because this is a virtual space. It's not a piece of paper that is confined to an 8.5 by 11, but it's basically any size you want it to be. And then to the right of that, we have what are called drawing aids. And this allows for different types of functionality. So right now I have the grid display. If I click on it, the grid's gone. If I click on the one beside it, and this refers to snap positions, it's how the mouse acts onto the actual screen itself. So I'm going to leave it the way it was. I'm going to remove this one. And then we have other functions that we'll look at as time goes on. Okay, so let's take a look at our drawing screen. And this is what's also referred to as the drawing editor. I must identify every step that I do within CAD for it to respond. So if I want to draw a line, I'll click on the line tool, and then I click on every position. So all I'm going to do is with my left mouse key is click, and then click, and click, anywhere on your screen, doesn't matter. And you can see what's happening. It's giving me a whole bunch of information about the specifics of the line. So it's giving me the length of the line, and you can see I'm just moving my mouse. I'm not clicking anywhere. It's giving me the length in that blue box, which I can type in a number. It's giving me the angle of the line, and the angle refers to the four coordinates, 90 being straight up, 180 being straight to the left, 270 being straight down, and then 0 or 360 to the right. So those are what's referred to polar angles. And if we worked on a straight grid of 90s and 180s, this would be how we would type in that information by, you can see where it says polar 8.8154 less than, which means angular, 90. And that would give us this particular line if I were to type it in instead of clicking on it. And I just clicked on to show you how it will actually display that line. I'm going to press enter, and that takes me out of the line command. And now I'm going to click on line again. And you'll notice that when I go over top of the line, it's got a green box. What is that? That's the default setting that is a snap position. So what does that refer to? AutoCAD works to 16 decimal place accuracy, which is extremely accurate. And one of the functions it gives us is to be able to identify the end to that accuracy level of the previous line. Now you can see my cursor, that's the cross, is not on the actual end, but just over top of the line. And what happens is as I approach that line, it automatically shows the exact end of the line. And you can see the word endpoint. So if I'm in this position and I click with my left mouse key, it automatically finds that end. And that's one of the tools within CAD to allow us for a highly precision type drawing, which is what we want to do as accurate as possible. Okay, I just clicked another location, pressed enter, and anytime we draw, we can remove what we draw by using a number of different ways. I can erase all this. I can use the undo arrow, which is at the top of the screen, and I just click on that. And what it's doing in this particular case is undoing the lines. Now you saw at first it undid one line, and then secondly it undid all the rest. It all has to do with how we draw in sequence. I'm going to bring that back with the arrow to the right. And once again, so the first set of lines that I drew, 1, 2, 3, 4, I clicked on the line command and then I clicked on these different locations. The second time I clicked on line once again, and then I found the endpoint and I drew this line. So I used the line command twice. And I'm going to simply scroll through here so you can see it's giving me all the different steps that I have done in just this demonstration. And I used the line command twice, 2 different steps, so the undo removes each grouping of steps. I can also erase this. So let's take a look at this. If I wanted to erase, I'm not drawing something new. What am I doing? It's modifying that's something that exists. So we'd go to the modify menu. And you can see here there's an obvious icon. It looks like a pencil eraser. I can click on that. And by clicking on it, and it didn't register at first, I can see in type in command it doesn't show erase. So I accidentally missed the icon when I clicked. And this is why we have a command prompt. I'm going to click on that erase icon. And you can see right at the bottom it shows immediately that I did click on the icon. I have multiple different ways of erasing. So I'm just moving my mouse. I'm not clicking anything. And you can see as I go over top of objects, they get highlighted to say, do you want to remove this? Do you want to remove this? There are several different ways of erasing. I can click on individuals. So I'm going to click and click and click. And this is confirming, are these the items that you want to erase? If I don't, I can press escape and it brings them all back. There are several different ways of doing this. Or I can erase using a window. Let's try this again. Now, as soon as I press escape, it basically removes me from the command. I have to start the process all over again. You can see down here it says type a command. So I'm going to click on erase. I can use what's called a window. So by creating a window, I pick 2 points, opposite corners. I click my first point, and then I'm just moving my mouse. I'm not clicking on anything. And as I move my mouse, whatever gets fully included in the window is now selected. You'll notice the top and the bottom line are not in the window, so they're not picked. But as I create my window, if I'm happy with my selection, I click the next point, and it says, you've picked those two. Do you want to accept that? I can press enter. And now it's accepted. Removed me from the command. And some of the commands roll, which means they stay on, and others pop you out of that command as soon as you press enter. In this one, we've left the command. Now I'm going to return those 2 lines by pressing the undo key that's top of your screen. And I'm going to use the third method of selecting, and that is using a crossing. So once again, I click on erase, and this time I'm going to move from right to left. And notice the box is no longer blue but green. That simply means I have to cross over a line and it picks it. Here in window, we have to fully enclose it. Here I just touch that item and it'll include it. So as I pick different locations, you can see all I need to do is touch the lines I want to remove. If I'm happy with it, I click the next spot, press enter, and it removes those lines. Okay, I'm going to bring those back. So we've talked about some basics here, drawing lines and erasing lines. So a draw menu, modify menu item. Let's talk about files and saving files. Now, this particular file is called drawing 1 because we just started a brand new drawing. And there are 2 processes. You either save or save as a drawing. So when you select save, it basically saves the drawing in the location it was created in and by the name it generated when it was opened. When you select Save As, we now have control over where we're going to place it. So I'm going to go up in my menu bar here and select File, Save As. This is the first time I'm saving it. So when I save it the first time, I want to control the name and the location. So I'm going to click on Save As. And when I click on Save As, it comes up with this menu. And this menu allows me to select specifically where the location of that file is and what it's called. Now, you have specific naming conventions that you've been asked to use in your particular project. And I believe, I'm just looking it up here, it says file, it has the name of the program, your first name, your last name, and DWG. So I've got in here, I'm going to use this as an example. For project number 1, your brief, it says INTD 1501 hyphen assignment 1 hyphen last name, first name, and then DWG. So if I were to follow that format, I have a number of different project lessons that I want to present here, and I'm going to do that in sequence. I can go into this menu and locate it by clicking on desktop or documents or anything of that nature. I have all my projects already in a specific file. This icon allows me to go up a level to find out where these files are. I've got one that's called interior design, so I'm going to go into that one. These are my different lesson materials that I'm going to be using here, and in this particular case I'm going to leave it as drawing 1. Again, you're going to be using your naming convention that's required for the course, but here I can change it to any name I want, but I'm going to leave it as drawing 1 only because it's an example and I'm going to be deleting this later. So I'm going to click on save. Now, interesting enough, AutoCAD has an automatic save function every time you save. Well, what does that mean? It saves a previous version of the file. So if I do any more work in this particular case, it will actually create a secondary version of it. Let me explain what I mean. I'm going to minimize this page here, and I'm going to open up the interior design folder that I've created for this series of videotapes. And there's my lesson material. And here's drawing number 1. That's the drawing that I just saved right now. So now what I'm going to do is go back into AutoCAD, make a couple of changes. I'm going to draw a couple of extra lines, and you can do this as well. Draw some extra lines and press enter. At this point, I no longer have to select Save As because I'm working with a drawing that I've already saved to a particular location. So this time I'm simply going to click on File and Save. It will automatically go to the location that I did that save earlier. So I don't have to worry about its location. But what's interesting is how CAD works. It automatically does what's called a backup file. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to minimize that. Now I have drawing 1, which is just been saved. And then I've got what's called drawing 1 BAK. This is the previous saved version. So anytime you work on a drawing and you continuously save it, the most recent version is the DWG file. The last save version is a BAK file, which allows you to change its last 3 letters to DWG. If I ever get a corrupt drawing file, I can restore the backup file just by changing these last 3 letters. And all we do is right click on it. And in this particular case, you can select rename, and you can see how I can change those last 3 letters. If I do that, I can't do that here right now because the drawings have the same name. But if I do that, that is the previous saved version. So there's a great way of always being able to have a dual copy of your work and therefore be able to save your work. Now, even though I've got 2 versions right here, I would still create another file on a USB stick and copy those files onto the USB. So I always have multiple copies of my particular project. All right, let's return to this. I don't need this anymore. Now, watch what happens. When I click on the X, it will disappear because I've already saved it. If I click on this X in the upper right-hand corner and I hadn't saved it, it will come up with a message box saying, hey, you've made some changes. You haven't saved them. Do you want to save them? So it's a neat way of identifying whether a file's been saved or not. So I'm going to, let me show this just for experimental reasons. I'm going to draw another line, and I'm going to click on this X, and it's going to come up, hey, you haven't saved this. Do you want to save it? Oh yeah, I forgot to save it. So now watch what happens. I'm going to select File, Save. So it's now restored the backup copy, it's restored the new DWG file, and when I click on this X, it disappears because it says, hey, you've saved it. There it is right now. So as long as I come back to the project, I will see that file. Now, at the school, the labs refresh every night, so you won't see any of these items here. But if you have a student version on your laptop, on your personal laptop, you'll see this menu with all the different drawings you've been working on during the day. All right, well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for your time. I'm hoping that this was enough information to help you with starting of your project, and this video series will help guide you through the rest of your project.